Hello and welcome to Whisky Resource. My name is Mark. This is review number 104. And today's review is a sample that was kindly sent to me by Alan McLaughlin. Alan sent a few drams over the few months, and this one was one I requested from him when we did a recent dram exchange, because I've only reviewed one Japanese whiskey so far and I was really wanting to get my hands on some more, do some more reviews. However, the whiskey I'm going to review today, whilst it is a Japanese whiskey in the sense that it was partially distilled there and matured there, bottled there, we believe, under the new Japanese classification system of what constitutes a Japanese whiskey, this whiskey unfortunately doesn't actually meet those requirements. So as such, if you go to the website of this particular distillery, there's a disclaimer there at the bottom to say that it doesn't meet the requirements of being a Japanese whiskey. In terms of specifically what did it fail on, because it's to do with the labelling and the actual process of using Japanese grain, Japanese water, distillation, bottling, all that kind of stuff. What did it fail on? I don't know. I've been told that the whiskey that I'm reviewing today, which is Nikka from the barrel, failed on the fact that new make spirit was distilled by a Scottish distillery and sent over to Japan to be matured and then blended into what comprises Nikka from the barrel, which is the whiskey I'm reviewing today. So as ever, if you look down in my description, you will see a link to my write-up review. On my write-up review, as always, on the left-hand side of the page, just below the bottle picture, I have a link to the distillery website with the distillery taste notes on it. From there you can find out a bit more about this particular whiskey and maybe how it feels. So Nikka from the barrel, it is a blend. On their website it says it's a blend of over 100 different whiskies, grain whiskies, malt whiskies. It's matured in a combination of ex-bourbon casks, ex-sherry casks and refill hogsheads. It's bottled at a healthy 51.4% ABV, which is a really nice strength. It's natural colour. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not natural colour. It's actually coloured. It's got E140 in there, and it is also chill filtered. Sorry for that. There's this little nib in these little plastic bottles that people are starting to use now because the lighter costs less on postage. So yeah, it's chill filtered, it's colour adjusted, 51.4% bourbon and sherry influenced. In terms of pricing, well, you can pick it up from a variety of retailers. Now, the Nikka from the barrel bottle is 50 cl, that's 500 milliliter bottle. So the prices I'm going to give you are the prices that the 50 cl bottle comes from. So it's Master of Malt, you're looking at £43.95. The Whisky Exchange, you're looking at £42.95. Waitrose, £39.99. And House of Malt sell it for £44.95. I say that's for the 50 cl bottle. If you want to do the upscaling, then you're looking at an average price for those prices there, £42.96. But if you upscale it to a 70 cl bottle, you're looking at £60.14 for a 70 cl bottle. So £60.14 for chill filtered, adjusted colour. Yes, it's got a healthy ABV, but it's technically only partially a Japanese whiskey. It's a blend of new make from Scotland, we believe, and Japanese whiskies, grains and malts. I think that's pretty much all we really got to say for it. In terms of value score, again, go and check my write a review from the description there, and you will see how I give it as a value score. So let's just move on to the tasting. There's nothing else on the... I've got the Nikka website open here. I don't think there's anything else on the Nikka website that needs to be said about this particular dram. The little note there, I'll scroll the page. The page wants to scroll. The little note there, it's just here about it not comprising Japanese standards now. So what we're getting from this on the nose, it's sweet, it's fruity. You're definitely getting sherry influence straight away on the nose. There's no information about whether there's any peat involved in this, any smoke involved, but I'm not getting anything off the nose. I'm getting spices. It seems to be coming across more of a dominant sherry character. It's a non-age statement whiskey, and I'm getting some of that youthfulness from it. However, that could be grain, because grain whiskies go into this. Grain can sometimes come across as adding a youthful character. It's adding a little bit of youthful vibrancy, a bit of vitality to the nose. It's nice. It's a nice nose. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's adding anything spectacularly different to Scotch whiskey, but to Japanese whiskey. And I can only compare it to the Yamazaki Distiller's Reserve that I reviewed last time. Check that one out. And that had a beautiful nose on it. This, it's nice. It is a nice fruity, we're talking dark, rich sherry notes of fruit. Let's go on the palate. That's actually very, very tasty. It starts with quite a sharp, sweet syrup palate. Gets fruity, dark and rich fruitcake. So we're talking sultanas, cherries, those kind of fruitcake senses there going on. It keeps its oily, syrupy right the way through, and it's only kind of at the end of the start of the finish that it starts to get a bit watery. There's dark chocolate in there. There's definitely spices. We're talking cinnamon, ginger, maybe a touch of nutmeg. It's oaky. It's bitter. Mouth drying. The ABV is only really at the end, when it gets mouth drying, do you really notice the ABV. You don't really get it on the initial sip. But I got some grassy green notes in there as well. A little bit of funk. On the palate, I would say that the sherry is dominating it. It's a tasty whiskey. Now, I've got to say I'm disappointed, and I've touched on this before, is I wanted another Japanese whiskey to review, and when the opportunity to get Nikka from the Barrel, which is a popular whiskey, came up, I jumped at the chance. but that was before the revelations. And I've got to say, I'm a little disappointed that I'm not actually tasting a genuine Japanese whiskey. But I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to just go on the merits of what's in the glass. On the nose, we're getting more of that bourbon. It's kind of got a touch of maple, a bit more oak, some vanilla's popping out. Yeah, the sherry's dropped to the back, and the bourbon's popped forward on there. You can still get the sherry sense from it, but it's definitely got more bourbony on the palate. Lemon and citrus with the sherried dark fruits. There's more of a gingery chocolate note now. There's still got some grassy elements to that, some grass funk. It's still bitter, just as much. The alcohol actually becomes a little bit more noticed with that touch of water. It's a Jekyll and Hyde dram, this really. It has changed quite a lot with water. As I say, without water, it's sherry impacted. Add a touch of water, it goes more bourbon. Give it time in the glass, who knows how it's going to develop from there. In terms of grain, other than the initial nose that had a bit of youthfulness, and that seems to have disappeared, I'm not really picking up much grain on the palate. That could explain some of the grassy notes. That's nice. That is tasty. That is tasty. However, like with my review of the Macmira, check that one out if you wish, that I did the other day. This is a 50cl bottle, and the average price of £42.96. I'd be looking at the bottle, wondering where my other 200ml is for the price, because it's certainly, I would say, worth around about £40 for a 70cl bottle. Pushing it to £60 for that, I don't know. I'm not thinking I would spend that much money on it. I have seen it on the shelves a few times. I have picked it up and I've looked at the bottle size and gone, that's quite pricey. It's a Japanese whiskey, and Japanese whiskies are expensive. I think you'd be lucky to pick one up. I can't think of the particular whiskey, but there's one that you can pick up in the supermarkets quite readily for about £30, £35. And then Nikka from the barrel, if you're lucky enough, is available as well. It tends to be places like Waitrose that sell it. I would pick it up if I was doing a whiskey tasting and I was doing world whiskies, or maybe wanted to concentrate on a particular type of whiskey, and this would certainly be one that I would might mix things up a bit and add into the tasting evening, something a bit different. So I would buy a bottle for that, and I would pay what Waitrose are selling for it. I'd pay under 40 for it, but I wouldn't buy one for myself. It is tasty, but the sherried influence from it, which is I tend not to put water in if I can help it, and I wouldn't put water on myself, but the sherry impacting that is giving is not giving for the price what other whiskies that are sherry influenced are giving. So we're talking about maybe like Glenfarclas 12, even the Ablo 10, which you can still pick up from various places, but the Ablo 12 you can typically pick that up for around about £30. Try to think now. The Glenlivet 12-year-old, you can pick that up for under £40. They're all quite decent whiskies that have had some degree of sherry influence to them, and you can pick them up for less money than this. Yes, they're lower ABVs than this, but I don't think the ABV is helping along any more than it should. It's an interesting one, and I think this is one that I'm going to have to return to with the little bit of sample I've got left there to really formulate an opinion as to whether I'll buy one for myself, because it is quite pricey for what it offers. I've got an idea as to how I'm going to score it. It is tasty. Definitely is a tasty dram. There we go. That's it. That's review number 104. Next one's coming up shortly, and it is a bottle review with blind sample input from a whiskey friend of mine. So check that one out. It's coming soon. Yes.